Hey everyone, welcome back to Secret Sonics. This is episode 153 with Josh Bonanno. I had a great chat with Josh. This was Josh's second conversation on the podcast, and as usual, second conversations are a lot more casual, but we talked about so many things, including spreading knowledge, finding community. We talked about social media platforms and how it's a total mess these days. We talk about community in real life in Nashville, where his work is coming from these days, patience, how quantity leads to quality, the fact that you need to trust your room and your speakers, working in the box, using the rough as a Bible, using the same old trusty plugins that he's been using since he's 15, his minimalist and purist approach to mixing, how deliverables are affecting the way people mix, leaving artistic surprises in the mix. We talk about shifting from a hustle mentality to trying to take breaks and resting more, and everything in between. So I think you're going to love this conversation. So here's my chat with Josh Bonanno coming up right here on Secret Sonics. Hey everyone. If you're anything like me, you often find yourself looking for business insight in podcasts. And I'm sure many of you are also into meditation and reflection to help better understand yourself. Former guest of the show, Carl Bonner, decided to launch a podcast that brings these two elements together. It's a series of guided self-reflection exercises, but specifically for freelance creatives like you and me, focusing on the struggles we face as we try to grow our businesses, while also finding more happiness in the work that we do. It's called Thanks for Thinking. It's definitely an unusual format, but if you want to grow your self-awareness, find deeper career satisfaction, and make more money, then I think this podcast might be for you. Experience it for yourself and click the link in the show notes below. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is Josh Bonanno. Josh is a mixing engineer based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Josh first appeared on the show back on episode 33, which I'm realizing was a freaking long time ago. That was like 120. I think by the time this airs, that'll be 120 episodes ago.
Wow, I love it.
And yeah, so we touched base recently, and I invited him back on the air, which he's graciously agreed to do. So with all that to say, welcome back to Secret Sonics, Josh.
Yo, thanks for having me. That's crazy to think about that I was number like 30, and now it's been that long. That's cool.
It's insane. So much has happened.
Yeah.
Literally it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Your episode.
I mean, I'm stoked that you're still doing the podcast too. I mean, that's a long time to kind of commit to podcasting and do that.
It's been a journey, man. Yeah. I don't know. Podcasting it's completely shifted since we last spoke for me of what it is. But like at the time, I think it was me making content around the time that, we spoke. And me trying to figure out how do I get myself out into the internet ethers. And now it's like about relationships and meeting people and kind of having a little space on the internet of a community or just like a group of people that I know. And I don't know, it's completely evolved. And it's like, it helps, it's helped me with my brand or whatever, but it's like, that's almost like a second thought and it hasn't helped me that much directly, so to speak.
Yeah, it's cool. I was going to ask you about that earlier, actually. Like, I guess what you've learned over all these years of podcasting and like what it's provided to you through all that. Because I mean, like I love the idea of the community and whatnot. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting space. We were schmoozing before we officially started the podcast about all kinds of stuff. But yeah, life is interesting and it takes you in different directions than you realize originally.
Yeah, well, things take on a new meaning too, like you said. You start for one reason, but then you kind of find the value in a different reason or even just a different season of life. It means something different to you at that time versus, the other. So it's cool. It's great. I mean, I'm thankful to be here and I'm thankful that you have that little community and that, I think it's valuable. I listen to the podcasts, a lot as they kind of pop up here and there. You've had some great conversations, so keep it up.
Thanks, man.
Keep it up.
I appreciate it, Josh. Yeah. Well, how about you, man? It's been 120 episodes. Like, how are you doing? What's been happening over in Nashville for you for the last? I don't even know how many. I guess it's been like 2 years plus.
Yeah, it's Nashville. Everything's changing a lot, but no, it's been great. I mean, obviously the pandemic was hard for a lot of people. I mean, I feel thankful that, my career didn't shift or change too much. I mean, doing what I do, mixing records, like I've always not been detached, but, I kind of have my space that I work, send it, and I work remotely, even with people here in town. I mean, it's always sort of just, they send me files, send it back. So it was honestly a smooth transition work-wise through the pandemic. Obviously, I think, mentally and emotionally it took a toll on everybody. But, I'm thankful for that I could kind of still just cruise and work and do my thing through it all. Everything shifted and, you kind of had to form relationships and, build your community, quote unquote, in a different way. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, just still making music, still, mixing records, kind of just growing, the brand and the business and the community. I mean, that's something I've been thinking a lot about too is, as I have a successful, quote unquote, career to some extent, like I pay my bills and I'm generally comfortable, quote unquote, in that sense, like, you start asking yourself the question of like, what now? And then it's, to me, I've kind of been harping on that idea of like, how do you build a community around this? Or how do you, I don't really have a desire to like teach or anything like that. So how do you sort of just start conversation around things and throw a helping hand out or spread knowledge or whatever that may be, or insight. So yeah, kind of been toying with those ideas and seeing what that looks like, whether it be in real life or in the internet ethos of whatever social media looks like currently. So
what about podcasting? Have you thought about that?
Yeah. I mean, I was doing this thing, I guess it's been maybe a year or two at this point, where I was just doing Instagram lives like every Thursday, and they still exist on my Instagram. If you go check them out, you could watch them. And I actually was in the process of uploading them to YouTube and whatnot. So they exist. So that was kind of my like, it's not an official podcast, but it could be if I just ripped the audio from it.
Yeah. The lo-fi podcast,
Pretty much, yeah. And those were really great. And that was, sort of my beginning of fostering that community, and it was great. But, life gets busy, and planning and dealing with that just takes a lot of time. So I admittedly just haven't done that in probably close to a year now, a little less than a year. But it's definitely something I want to get back into. And the reason I stopped was because I, was thinking if I'm going to continue to do this, I want to do it in a little bit less of a lo-fi way and a little more of an intentional way where it's maybe a little easier to consume. Like everybody's not maybe on Instagram at the time when it's live, or like there's probably better ways for people to interact with this as well, whether it became more of a podcast situation or whether it became more of a, like I've toyed with the idea of doing like Twitch type stuff or different things like that. So it's an idea in my mind still. It's just not something I've fully fleshed out or figured out really the best plan of attack to do it. So if anybody listening has any ideas, hit me up. Or the other thing too is like, I think, as much as I'm passionate about it and want to do it, I think deep down I sort of need a partner to do it with in some extent. Like I think it's just a lot for me to take on and have the vision myself with everything else that I have going on in life and the music that I do and whatnot. So it would definitely be something that I think I'd probably have to team up with somebody on or do in that capacity, just because I know I would burn out pretty quick. So
yeah, I totally hear that. I really wanted to actually start this podcast with a co-host, and I thought in my mind it has to be somebody that is at least as sociable and interesting as me, if not more so.
Yeah.
And the person I had in mind, I basically reached out to, and he's like, I'd really love to do this, but I know I'm not going to commit to it.
Yeah.
So I can't say yes. And I was like, screw it. I got to just do it, myself.
No, I mean, I love that. Like there has to come a point where you're just like, I'm doing it. And then like if somebody comes along after, like it's easier to add. But yeah, I mean, that's always been the issue that I've had is like, because I know it's a lot to ask for somebody to commit to as well, and then I also... Not that I like to think I'm hard to work with, but I'm particular in like my vision of things. So it does make working together on things hard sometimes, just because I have my vision. I want to do it my way.
Right.
And I'm not maybe always the best at communicating that. So then at the end of it, I just am like, it's just easier. I'll just do it myself, Right. So I'm working on that in myself.
It's a perfectionistic trap.
We
need to learn to let go.
Yes. Agreed. I need to like care
I definitely
less, I
do.
guess. Yeah. No, you're totally
Same.
right. Yeah, so that's kind of been the holdup in that. But yeah, that's definitely something I'm passionate about and thoughtful about. I don't know, and again, I like to view the landscape of like where people are hanging out and what that looks like. And I think the social media is in a really weird place currently, which is why I haven't maybe jumped into anything quite yet, just because I just don't know that like the right platform for community is there yet. Like TikTok to me is a great place, and I'm a huge TikTok fan, and I think what's happening on there is amazing, but it's just not a place of community, I don't feel like.
Right. Yeah.
Instagram's just dead at this point,
Really? You think so?
Yeah, to some extent. to the extent
I've been finding that the algorithm has been burying me more recently.
Yeah, I mean, you're at the algorithm's just, stronghold, and then something about it just feels like it's on its way out and everybody kind of knows it, and it's just full of sort of spam type stuff. And like, I'm very interested in the Twitch and Discord stuff, but that also feels like a younger demographic than where I'm at and the age I'm growing to, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to even to understand those platforms, just because
I'm so over. I have a Discord, and I'd be happy for everybody on the show to kind of join the Discord, which, every once in a while something cool happens, but it's still kind of very much in its sapling stage, so to speak. But I'm overwhelmed in general from Discord of just like the other groups that I'm in, just constant notifications popping up, and I'm just like, dude, I don't have mental capacity to like look at any of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I have a great respect for people who have like, quote unquote, whatever successful Discord means, but like people who have active, like communities. I think it's great for that. But again, I just look at like the people that are in my community already, and I know they're not going to get on Discord. Like I know it's destined to fail before it even starts, just because nobody knows how to use it. Like I don't really know how to use it. I can't keep up with it. How can I ask, my community to do that?
Just like Dolby Atmos or something, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just kidding.
We won't go there, but
let's not go there. Yeah.
Just kidding. I mean, yeah, it's all fine. It's just, I don't know. I think you find your thing, and then you kind of stick with that, or whatever that looks like. So
I don't know. I still feel like Instagram is where it's happening in terms of like our community, of like the audio community. That seems to be where I'm able to connect with people the most, reach out to potential guests. It just seems to be where I also find out about what's going on with people in the industry, what they're up to.
Yes.
TikTok is amazing for just, I guess, entertainment, really. It's like an entertainment platform more than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's not really a community, like you said, or a place to necessarily share knowledge even. Like Instagram, you could share knowledge on, and TikTok is really just about entertaining people on the platform, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could do anything on TikTok if it's entertaining, but no, you're right. I mean, Instagram, I don't mean to like talk bad about Instagram. Instagram definitely is like still where I hang out for sure. I just don't think Instagram's a place you can grow currently. Like whether that be grow a community or grow, an artist career, like it's just not a place to grow. And I think if I were to be looking to like start a community or foster a community, like there needs to be a way for it to organically grow in a way for it to meet the vision of what I would want of it. And Instagram's not that. And what it comes down to is you just need a combination of all the things, I think, like if you start a podcast, like that podcast needs to have a presence on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube.
Right.
And probably Facebook, like it's got to be everywhere. And yeah.
That's exhausting.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that sounds very tiresome to me.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at the end of the day, is probably just my own fault.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, we were kind of schmoozing about this before the interview started also, just about like making all the content for the content, right? Like of like, I have this podcast, but I make these reels and I'm making these YouTube highlight clips, and it's just like the amount of work that you could do to promote the show never ends and just can only grow, and there's only more places to post about it. And
content
makes
for
you think,
the content. Yeah. I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Content for content's sake. Literally. It's crazy. It's like, when does it end?
Yeah, it's tiresome. It's exhausting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and that's kind of what I do always come back to, like, that I love about Nashville is, yes, there's this content thing. And like, and I think it's beautiful that you can exist in the music industry, whatever that looks like, wherever you are in the world, and have community of audio people or other musicians or whatever that may be. You could find anything you want on the internet, people who are just like you. And that's crazy because 5-10 years ago, you couldn't even do that. But
yeah.
But something like being in Nashville where, I could walk out my door and like literally the neighbor who lives 5 feet behind me is like a songwriter and a videographer, and like we're good friends, and like just like that immediate like real community of like in real life.
Yeah.
Is still, I think there's something valuable over that, over, social media and whatnot.
Yeah. I think also to really be successful at whatever field of audio you're doing, there's definitely some benefit to being in a big city like Nashville or LA or maybe London or whatever. But like I spoke with a guy named Irko on the show who mixed the latest Kanye record. He's done a lot of big hip hop records, and he was in Italy doing like, every aspect of the process. And then when he got to LA, he was able to kind of niche into mixing.
Yeah.
And he kind of explained to me, it's like, you can't really go hard on one thing